Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We are very excited and proud to have the one and only Jeff Jones, PGA, on the Catalyst webinar this morning. Jeff is the CEO and founder of Just You Sports. Jeff has been a PGA member for many, many moons and has played professionally. He's taught. He's been in the Vegas area, Southern California, and his experience in the golf business, from his perspective, is a story that we all need to know and heed. Hence the title of this morning's Catalyst, Take a Walk with Me. Good morning, Mr. Jones. Thanks for joining us this morning on the Catalyst webinar series. How are you today?
Hey, John. How are you? Good,
sir.
See you.
Grateful that you are on with us this morning. So for everybody that's on the Catalyst Zoom this morning, normally we use a different medium called gotowebinar.com, in which the attendees, yourselves, can't speak live on the webcast. The only way that you could communicate with myself or the presenter is through the question box. However, today we're using Zoom for the first time in the Catalyst history. So it is Jeff's intention to give a relatively brief presentation about his story and his direction and his views. And the intention is, after that presentation, open it up to Q&A, where we can all interact, be visible to each other and unmuted. So we're all in there now. Anything else to add, Jeff, before we begin?
Sounds great, John. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the intro.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I really appreciate you being here this morning with me. This journey of mine has been quite a bit of a very long walk in doing many things in the world of golf, and or despair, and many heartbreaking things that go on. I am truly excited about today, and I'm also grateful for the time that I've had to really work extremely hard in the golfing industry. Although every day has not been a walk in the park, it has been extremely enlightening in how I think as a person, how I raise my family, how I talk to my kids and encourage them to continue to be the best as they can be. So when I got started in golf, I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I'm currently 63 years old. And I got started at golf at age 8. And my dad was the one that encouraged me with a group of gentlemen that he used to play golf with every Saturday and Sunday morning. That turned out to be a place where I could get hot dogs and lemonade. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And it was an interesting game enough because I never really saw golf at that time growing up on television. So my only live connection to it was my dad taking me with him to the golf course or sending me out in a field with some shag balls and shagging balls for him as he hit balls. So as it progressed, I really enjoyed it. Got my first set of clubs when I was 10 years old. By the time I was 12, I broke 80 for the first time, and the rest for me was really kind of history. Little did I know, even though I know during that time there weren't many African Americans on the tour, but I do remember the contest, the match play between Jack Nicklaus and Lee Elder, where Lee Elder beat Jack Nicklaus at Firestone. And it was one of my first memories of just African Americans in the game. And I thought there would be something that, and I knew it was actually something that I actually wanted to do. So I pursued that every day, hitting balls for as long as I could hit balls for, and getting every subscription to every magazine that would allow me information, knowledge, education about the game. So unlike today, when I grew up, we had encyclopedias and for informational purposes, which a lot of you people might not even know what the hell that is, but it is what it is. And we had to, that generation really had to strive and dig deep in order to educate themselves better. In order to find out the information, you had to actually look it up. You had to do everything that you could to be as strong as you can with all the information that was available. And there was a lot of information available, but you had to reference it. You had to resource it. You had to search it out. You couldn't just ask your phone, where do I find this? And it was not as simple, but it led me in a direction that I shall be forever grateful. And then on the other hand, too, things just didn't work out sometimes. But that's just the way life is in the first place. Things don't always work out the way you want. It's almost like how you choose your friends. You know, most people choose friends that want to agree with them because it's simple and it's easier to deal with versus someone who's going to tell you the truth always, whether or not it hurts your feelings or not. And, or just being real, you know, as they say, the truth will set you free. So I know that in my experiences, the first experience that I really had was when I started playing golf. I played tournament golf, and I played with an organization called the Midwest Golf Association, which was predominantly Black amateur golf in the state of Ohio and Michigan. And at that point in time, never really had anything or anyone tell me that golf was something I shouldn't do or couldn't be, um, or discouraged me. It was always, you're a good player. We need people like you. You should really want to get involved. Well, little did I know that in Ohio that there were other amateur tournaments in the summer too, besides the ones I played. The ones that I started to play in as a junior would be more along the lines of where most of the country club kids play. Well, in Toledo, there were no Black members ever allowed at any public clubs. So a lot of the tournaments, if they weren't held someplace outside of a country club setting, I wasn't able to participate, or I showed up for the golf tournament and then was told that I actually couldn't play. Moving later on, I played golf for the University of Toledo. Don Cocknett was my coach. And it was extremely difficult to have to deal with some of the things that happened on a daily basis because it was at Toledo Country Club. Still no Black members allowed, but the University of Toledo's Board of Regents basically said that I had a right to play because my GPA was obviously academically eligible, and they didn't really have, they didn't have much of a choice, but I still had to listen to the N word and this and that, and why are you on my golf course, and people picking up my ball that coming out of their backyards, and it was all kinds of bedlam that kind of went on. The next juncture was moving to Las Vegas. Little did I know that when I moved there, that they were only 17 years removed from Thurgood Marshall's decision, his Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education, where we all know that separate but equal was determined that it is inherently not equal. And in Las Vegas, they didn't even integrate schools until 1977, and I moved there in 1980. So obviously, when I got there, I didn't realize all of that had really transpired or took place. So I was the first Black golf professional in the city of Las Vegas and the state of Nevada in 1984, or excuse me, 1983, because it took 3 years to get a job. My first job that I went to interview for, or one of the first anyway, was at Sahara Country Club at that time. And at that time, there were only maybe 6 or 7 um, golf courses in the city of Las Vegas, and most of them were connected with a casino. As you know, there was the Dunes and the Desert Inn and the Tropicana and the Sahara. And other than that, there was only maybe a couple of public and or county golf courses. But when I went to Sahara in my shirt and tie, handing my resume, because I was assistant manager at Ottawa Park Golf Course in Toledo, Ohio. And Dave Baker was my head professional at that time. And I did not want to lose my amateur status, so that's why I never got into the PGA early. I just wanted to really be in the business, and decided at a certain point that I wanted to be a golf professional. And that's when I moved from Toledo to Las Vegas. And I moved there because my best friend's parents lived there, and I stayed with them for a while. And but that first interview was, one of the first interview was devastating to me, because I took my resume in, jacket and tie, spoke to them, and he looked at me, smirked, laughed, said, "Are you kidding me? You really think you're going to get a job here?" Took my resume and threw it in a trash can. So that was that that was the hello. That was my version of hello world to this is what it's like, someplace other than Toledo, Ohio, which wasn't always as friendly, but at least I had an opportunity to practice and play, even though even though it was at public facilities. So a few years later, 3 years later, I finally got a job at that same golf course, even though I kept going every 30 to 45 days to reintroduce myself to all of the people that were in the golf industry, because I was determined to really do this portion of golf, of what I thought. And it's not necessarily that I felt that I had a right. What I thought is that I have a desire to do something, and I should not let anybody get in my way of deterring me at any point in time to do what I think is right for myself, and to enjoy what I would like to enjoy. And that was the game of golf, the competition of it. And I never really got into golf to go hang out with my buddies like my dad did, but my dad already had a career, and so did his buddies. My whole thing with golf was I didn't want to play golf at any other level except for competition. I didn't want to go out on the weekends and play with my buddies and spend time doing that. There's many things that you can do uh, with your life and with yourself, but with golf, it was all about determination of competing. And I didn't have any other desire to do any other thing other than that. Um, that job that I finally got was due to the fact that the person that um, threw my resume in the trash can, he actually died in that interim of sclerosis of the liver, which is a horrible way to die. But after that, I was able to get a job, American Golf, believe it or not, purchased Sahara Country Club for about 3 mil, and which was a steal of the century at that time, with every, all the equipment and everything. And I was hired on the driving range, not as an employee, uh, just to pick range in exchange for practice and playing privileges. And that was about 6 to 10 hours a week, which turned into about 38, 40 hours a week because all the kids that were doing it never showed up to work. And I knew that if I bitched and moaned and complained about it, that I would lose my privileges to practice and play. So I never did. And one day, one of the guys in the shop um, didn't show up to work. The director of golf came out and asked me would I like to go to work inside the shop, and I said sure. Um, it was a little weird, but he said go home, change your clothes. I did, came back, and that's how I got to work in the golf business, legally, instead of working for I don't know how many months. I did it, probably 6 to 9 months, to where I worked for free all the time, in exchange for practice and playing privileges. During that time at Sahara was very interesting because I still had to deal with, the customers and the guests that would come through. Although Jerry Lewis, um, the actor comedian, was still pretty prevalent in Las Vegas during that time, and he was a great guy, and we had a lot of fun, obviously, because he was a funny guy. And so there were people that were there that were great, but there were people there that didn't want to hand me their money, or when it came to golf lessons, they didn't want to take a lesson from me because they said they wanted to take a lesson from Jeff Jones. And I said, hello, that is me. And they said, no, it can't possibly be you. And there were just things that I had to deal with on that daily basis that everyone else in the industry really never really had to deal with. Not only deal with, you know how it used to be. Well, the old-fashioned way that it used to be was, the PGA members got in a room and drank, and they toasted each other and said, "Yeah, you're a PGA member." There was no classes, no schools. There wasn't any of that. But when they started doing the PGA schools, then I knew that that was something that I needed to do in order to get started, to do what I needed to do to be a PGA member. And I moved back and forth between California and Las Vegas over several years. My first job in California was Industry Hills, and I was hired by Rick Smith and by Jim Porter, and I realized the difference between Las Vegas, and I don't really say Nevada much because there's only a couple of cities really in the whole state. So there was a difference between Las Vegas and California. And the difference was Rick Smith and Jim Porter that's how encouraging it was for me to stay in the industry. And I owe both of those two golf professionals so much. So,
Hey, Jeff. Jeff,
yes.
this is John. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
John.
Your bandwidth is a little bit low, and we missed what you said about Rick and Jim and how that was for you
Sure.
transitioning from Vegas to Industry Hills. Can you revisit that real
Yes.
quick? The last 15 seconds worth.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Is it good now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just to repeat that I was saying that there was a big difference between Las Vegas and California, and Rick Smith and Jim Porter, who hired me at Industry Hills, were the greatest two dudes, and it was the most fun job I ever had in the golf industry, even to this day, um, because the team of guys that they had, the golf professionals there were really great. Steve Charles and Kenny, you know, there I learned a lot from many golf professionals along the way that that either did look like me or didn't look like me, but it was nice, to be here and there with knowing that all I had to do was show up at work, do the best job that I possibly could every day, and just be myself. And that was literally impossible to do when I was in Las Vegas. But in California, it was great, and I truly enjoyed it. The As I continued, forward in my career, I did the Golf Channel. I was a regular on the Golf Channel Academy Live for six years, and I was on with Kelly Tillman and also Peter Kessler, and watching twice a year for 6 years. And from that came um, Golf Digest schools, where I was head instructor for Golf Digest schools at Silverstone in Las Vegas. And I don't even believe that golf course exists anymore. But the Golf Digest building was excellent, and we had a great time. Um, Throughout that, I was also during that time in '99, I was voted PGA Teacher of the Year for the very first time, and which was a great honor because that actually happened in Las Vegas. And it had happened after I had done the Golf Channel and some other things in town, and I kind of outlasted some of the dinosaurs that were there that were trying to close doors instead of open doors, and uh, instead of extending open hands, they would keep their hands in their pockets. So uh, to overcome that was huge for me. Um, and then winning it again in Southern California um, at a Levis Links golf course, um, um, golf club in 2011 was that was an excellent opportunity as well. So in so many ways, I've been blessed with a lot of things that have happened. In some ways, it's just been downright messed up. Um, all I would say is, and this isn't like bring a buddy to work and that kind of stuff. I know that there are members that still feel that 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 blacks don't belong in this industry, and that's your opinion, and I'm not trying to sway you from changing your mind, but when you work at a resort, or when you work at a public facility, it's best to allow and want to entertain the fact that the people should look like the people that come and play golf. And I know that there's Hispanic and Asian and 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 black and white and Native American. These people play the game of golf, and you should highly think about what types of people that you're going to put in your shop and out front, and shouldn't be afraid to do it because it's always been the right thing to do. It's never been wrong to give an opportunity to someone who was born and raised in this country. And many times I had to feel like I was never even a part of this country, although I've done many things to show that I am, and not only a part of it, and not only a small part, but a large part in educating people to help them understand that everyone that doesn't look like you is not an enemy. Um, and I and I and it's easy for me because of how I was raised with education values, and many people are not raised with those education values, or like I stated earlier, people just want to be around people that are like them so that they can hear what they want to hear, and they don't have to have a discussion on what's not simple or easy for them. Well, as I stated before, life is not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy, and it isn't fair. It isn't supposed to be fair. What it's supposed to be is it's supposed to be a journey that allows you to learn, to teach, to understand the differences, not of human beings, because there's just only human beings, but the difference of cultures, so, and there's many different cultures and and ethnic backgrounds in this country and throughout the world. And if we don't learn how to do something better than what we do right now, if we don't leave the golf business or your neighborhood or your city or the the township or county that you live in, if you don't leave it better than what you found it, I'm not actually sure what the hell you're actually doing here in the first place. So, if that's the type of attitude or person that you strive to be, then you're you're so wrong in your process, and you're so wrong in the beliefs, because the world is going to continue to grow, because that's what it does. It evolves. And as PGA members, we need to evolve, and we need to see other people that that are in this industry and are in this business, because if I never saw Lee Elder play Jack Nicklaus, let alone beat Jack Nicklaus, there's no way I thought, or I would have even known, that this was an opportunity for me to do something different than everyone else. Um, that's kind of it. So I'd certainly like to answer any questions that people might have. I'm sure you have quite a few. So I'd like to get started, John, if it's all good. You there, John?
Hey, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah. Hi,
Sorry
Andy.
about that, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear you. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing good, Jeff. I got a question real quick before John gets. Number one, I applaud your patience and your fortitude to go down that path. I mean, I can't imagine what you've been through, but it's great to hear your story. What are you doing now? Are you still working in the golf business? I'm sorry that I'm not familiar with your path.
Not a problem. No, I retired from golf after 27 years or so. I did that because I have these incredible children who've turned out to be really great athletes, and my 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 one son who just graduated a few years back from Holy Names, he's working at Olympic Club, and he has his 4-year college degree. He he's TPI certified. He's almost has his PGA membership, and I'm begging him to go back to school to get his master's in psychology, so he could maybe coach golf at one of the universities up in the Bay Area. My youngest son Jaden is a track star and a quarterback star, and I needed time to work with him, so I went back several years ago, so that I could. I have my USATF track and field. Um, I can coach a track. I can also coach. I was a quarterback in Ohio, and my son's a quarterback now, and so I've been coaching high school football for the last 8 years. I've been really busy doing a lot of coaching, but my basis of that really stemmed from all the information that I learned at golf with biomechanics and kinesiology. And so I started a app company 2 years ago and we're raising money right now to build an app that's going to uh, rival something like Instagram and or uh, Twitch in the gaming world, but it's strictly for athletes and to help them um, to achieve their dreams.
Great.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jeff, to piggyback on what Andy said there, I would like to commend you for being able to come on a forum like this. And as we all know, the vast majority of the PGA of America is Caucasian and male. So to be able to come on and share your experiences and share your views is not easy. And you and I have spoke offline
Yes.
numerous times about especially in the last year with Black Lives Matters and the events that have transpired, where you know people are following suit with what's right, but as we talked in the past, many are following suit not because it's right, because they want to fit in uh, with the perception of what's right. Can you talk a little bit about how you in your career have come to identify the legitimacy of the sincerity, I guess?
John, I'm sorry. I lost the last bit. Could you repeat that part, please?
Yeah, well, you and I have spoke offline many times about the sincerity or lack of sincerity or the legitimacy of the uh, the view of diversity
Yes,
in the golf business. Can you talk a little bit about how you identify the legitimacy of a particular view being, whether it's the right thing or whether it's the perceived right thing because that's what everybody's doing?
sure. Yes, we have spoken about optics, and optics only last for a very short period of time because someone is trying to look like young Black kids need to see Black golf professionals on television in order to know that that's something that they can do. In the Which is why they have a tendency to want to play basketball or want to play football, because they go, I can do that because I see such and such and such and such athlete doing this. The and it can't always be just one athlete. Okay, so we had President Obama as a president for 8 years, and people had an opportunity to see that this is something that can actually really happen in this country. Now, whether or not that happens again, I don't know. Is it a possibility? Sure, everything in life is a possibility, but who knows what really is going to transpire, after the last political process we've had. But in the world of golf, John, it's important that women get jobs, and and Blacks and Hispanics get jobs. As you know, of the 28,000 PGA members, there's maybe 150 or less of 28,000. So that's really represents a third of a percent. So things have to really change. Even though I believe the last statistics that I looked up, they say that there's between 22 and 27 million people that play golf in the United States, and that fluctuates, on a yearly basis. And of that, I believe it's about 8 million that maybe play that are African American or black descent. Um, so it's a large percentage of that. It's a third of a percentage, oddly enough, as if we're talking numbers, oddly enough, it's about what it is with the ratio of golf professionals. So, but 6 to 7 million people that play this game that look like me really want to play the game and have a good time. And they're not all trying to be golf professionals. But really, I think to define your question is until we see until we see the president of the PGA be Black, until we see the CEO that way, until we see a uh, a Black PGA Teacher of the Year, not just in his chapter but section, and actually that could be national. Until we see things like that, I know Susan Whaley was, as the first female, and I know that all of those things are extremely important. But imagine, instead of Susan Whaley, maybe it was Renee Powell, and some of the people, as I'm sure her father was had the first, because I'm from Toledo, he had the first golf course in the state of Ohio, in Cleveland. And Renee Powell could have done, maybe she could have been the first president of the PGA of America. But the PGA of America has to want to reach out in what I call a realistic manner, to say we want changes. How do we make those changes, and what do we do to go about them? Because to me, going about changes is not a junior golf program where you incorporate some kids like the First Tee program does. And I'm not to knock the First Tee program, because it's not my cup of tea, right? Because once these kids find out that they're good enough to actually play, then what do they do after that? See, no one tells these athletes, what are you going to do after that? Well, I tell you what you have to do is you have to go ask mom and dad and Aunt Bessie and Uncle Bob, do you have $200,000 for me to go play a game? And that's not really going to happen. So it's one thing to be able to participate in the game. It's another thing to be able to participate in it for a living, because it's a business. It's just like right now, my business. I have to go raise money in order to do what I want to do. And if you want to own a shoe company, you've got to go raise money to do what you want to do. So I guess, John, what I'm trying to say is that people they have to be stronger, and they have to literally demand an opportunity to be in the field that they want to be in. And that the golf industry owes black and brown people a whole bunch of stuff. And put you don't put a person in a job just because of the color. You put a person in a job because they got to do it, and and because they've earned the right to.
So, Jeff, when you came up in the golf industry,
Yes.
mentorship is so important for, professionally speaking, spiritually speaking, interpersonally speaking. Many never accomplish what they want to accomplish without a firsthand mentor to help them through.
Yes.
You came up in the golf business, you had no mentors. You had nobody that you could look to the way that Tony Finau, when he was growing up, he could look to Tiger Woods and it was an inspiration to him. People can look to Kamala Harris as an African American female in politics. Just like you said, once people have done it, they're the inspiration for people to do it in the future. You didn't
Yes.
have that.
No, I did not.
What kept you from becoming angry and dissonant and giving up? It had to
Well,
have been more than just the love of the game.
well, first of all, who says I'm still not angry? So there's I'm not I'm not really losing. I what I've learned how to do, John, is I've learned how to turn anger into something else. I've learned how to, I don't know, I've just been resilient. I mean, what can I say? I, I was a quarterback in the 70s, and there weren't very many of those. Uh, I've just done so many things in my life that I guess I really just don't care what other people think. I just want to do what I want to do. And I know that I'm going to get, the slings and the arrows. I know I'm going to get that. So I guess for me, I don't want to say I'm hard headed, but I'm very stubborn about what I want to do as a person. And I'm just not going to allow anybody to get in my way. And you can do that without violence. You can, although there's many times that, oh, believe me, I would have liked to smack my boss in the mouth, but you know, it, I just learned how to deal with it in other ways. And the other ways could be going hitting balls. The other way, it could have been running. It could have been, going to the gym or whatever it was, or talking to some friends of mine that might be going through some of the similar processes. I know that along the way, I have mentored white and black PGA members, and uh, and it's probably close to 20 members that are PGA members right now. Because I told them to call me anytime, day or night. If you're having issues, don't hesitate. I'll be there because I've been through things that you possibly couldn't imagine or stomach.
When you graduated from the University of Toledo and moved to Vegas, did you have any support in Vegas or did you move there solo?
I was there with my best friend's parents. So it was great that I didn't have to, pay for a place to sleep and eat, because they took care of me for about 5 years that I was there, and until I was able to get out and establish my own.
What is your prognostication for diversity in the PGA over the next 5 years?
That's a great question. As I'm kind of removed and I haven't been a part of the higher echelon of PGA, it's it's tough to say of what I actually think is going to happen. As we spoke earlier, I hope it's not just something that has something to do with optics of just trying to look good for a year or two, and then they go back to the same old things. And people do have a tendency to go back to things that are easier to do or that have been more established along the way, as in tradition. So I know that when I hear, I don't really like the word tradition that much, and and the reason why is, well, tradition, depending on where you are, especially um, in golf, means um, blacks don't play, they caddy, right? At Augusta, it was the only thing black here is going to be coffee and caddies. And, so I don't, I don't go back to that tradition stuff. There has to be a new way to do things. And, and I don't know what Susie Whaley has done to encourage the PGA, her her own group of people that she's been dealing with. I don't know what she has done to say, look, this is what we need to do in order to facilitate real changes of what the PGA of America should really look like. Um, so it's a good question, John. I wish I could answer that question, but I don't have enough information in front of me to actually assess to make an honest judgment and decision on where this industry should or could go.
No pun intended when I refer to the word catalyst, because obviously this is the Catalyst webinar series, but in recent history, the last 40 years, there's been these catalysts that have taken place that have brought racial tension to a head. The O.J. Simpson trial, the Rodney King beating, obviously now the George Floyd murder. Do you see companies and organizations attempts to embrace diversity? Do you see that more as optics, or do you see a sincerity in it across the board, generally speaking?
Well, if I look in, let's just say, the working industry in general, I still see glass ceilings for black and brown people and women in general. That glass ceiling is really hard to get over, and it's hard to break through there. And you do have to realize that pretty much all the laws and the rules and things that have been written, they've been written by and for Caucasian males, and no one else really has has made a tremendous stride through, although in certain industries during certain times, um, I guess, John, it's cyclical. Okay, and that's what I see. It's just cyclical action. Are you
John,
there? Are you there, John?
yeah,
Okay.
I think we had a bandwidth hiccup.
Okay.
Can you go over revisit the last 10 seconds?
Yeah, no
You said,
problem. I just think that it's more cyclical. I mean, it life happens in cycles. So, you know, it's okay to make a couple of changes right now, and then sooner or later, once we put a couple of people out front, everybody's going to forget about it, and we can go back to old school days, and we can go back to things that we used to do. So, um, that's how I look at it, and you know, as I said, I'm 63 years old right now. I don't really foresee that in my lifetime that and I can't speak for the world because I don't live in the world, but I do live in the United States of America, and I don't see the United States of America being smart enough or intelligent enough to literally overlook what someone looks like versus how smart they are, right? So, you know, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? If it's your color, it's you don't look right, or you're overweight, or you don't look the part. There's always going to be these prejudices that don't allow people to get to the level that they actually have a right to go to and be. But people have reasons why, right? I mean, everybody's supposed to be skinny, and everybody has to have long blonde hair, and I mean, those kinds of things. And until those types of things actually, you don't see them anymore. Until you don't see that, then I can honestly say there's going to be real big changes. But when we hold all of these prejudices, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. So it's going to take you and myself and anybody that's involved in just life in general. You have to you've got to pull somebody with you, and it doesn't really matter what they look like. What it matters is, it matters what the character of that person is. What is their content? Uh, what do they stand for? Are they on the moral side of life, or are they not? You know, are they for people? Are they for humanity, or are they just out for themselves? So when it comes to those types of things, and I may be speaking of it from a very simplistic standpoint, but the whole point that I'm trying to make is that we owe ourselves and our neighbors, and people who are not our neighbors, we owe them the opportunity to live someplace where they can be free to do things within the law without fear. So, you know, I still don't want to be pulled over by police officers. I don't. Okay. And I would like to be able to go to sleep at night knowing that my sons and daughters are not going to be harassed, or, you know, and those are difficult things. So until we all grow up and we understand that there's a there's a nation that is crying for justice, and a nation that, and interesting enough, you don't have to be black to cry for justice. You can be any color, because there's economic justice, there's there's poverty justice, there's job discrimination justice, right? There's more than just one justice. And until we realize that everybody has difficulties, we're going to have we're always going to have these inherent problems that are so hard to fix.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen on the Catalyst, any questions or comments or statements you'd like to make? This is our first Zoom Catalyst, so everybody has a voice. Questions for Jeff? Anybody? We have a very large turnout today. We've got 24 PGA members on the webcast. Would anybody besides Andy Tooney and myself have a question?
Hey, John. Hey, John, can you hear
me? Is that UTA?
It's TP.
Oh, Tom Parker. Tom Parker of PGA West, tournament coordinator, and also is a member of the education committee for the SoCal section. Tom Parker, you have the floor.
Thank you, John. There's a reason, Jeff, that I've not put my video on, because I'm overweight, balding, 64 years old, and don't have blonde hair either. So, but Jeff, I really want to thank you for letting us take a walk with you down your life and the journey that you did. I appreciate your honesty and your candor and your thoughts and perspectives. So thank you very much, sir. Question that I might have, you have one of your sons, you said was in the golf business up at Olympic.
Yes.
And I know coming up through that, when he was getting involved, you probably were able to give him some personal wisdom, nuggets and pearls of wisdom that allowed him to progress and get to the position that he is now. For others coming up, other folks of, people of color, people of different backgrounds, people of different nationalities, and whatever. What kind of pearls of wisdom, if you could, one or two or three, would you recommend that they embody as they're starting their journey? And then maybe things like us in the PGA can help embolden or help reinforce as they come up through their journey.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for the question and being on the panel today. My son, Gregory, he's this really cool, good kid, open heart, highly competitive. What I asked him to do, and you may find this interesting because I have 5 children. So I've asked all my children to do the same thing, which is number one, you have to understand that God's put you here to do something other than suck up energy from the planet. And you have to be able to adhere to what it is that you must do on this planet that might be uncomfortable. So I didn't really give him any words of wisdom for the golf profession per se. I gave him life lessons. And the more I believe you give someone a life lesson, they can adapt or adopt and use it in a very positive manner. Um, it's just been important for me in raising with my wife Debbie that we teach our kids that it's going to be difficult no matter what you love to do, but it's up to you whether or not you're going to be in your own way to succeed. How do they help or inspire, or how do people move forward? Well, they have to move forward because you're encouraging them. And there's not many people in the world that actually encourage other people to be better because they're insecure and unsecure of their own personality. Oh, I can't make this person better than me because they might take my job. Well, I'm going to teach you so that you can teach yourself. I'm going to help you so that you become better than me. If you're not better than me, I haven't done my job that I was supposed to do when I got here. And people keep missing the boat, Tom. They really do. It I've told people many times that I'm Peter Pan. And the reason why I'm Peter Pan is because I don't like adults and I never want to grow up. And, but I am grown up but I'm still like Peter Pan because I don't like adults mostly because they lie all the time about what they can do for you. And they lie about what's available for you because they're more afraid that they're going to have to study and be better than the person that they're mentoring. You should want, Tom, you should want your people to be so good that you don't have to go to work. And you have to believe that the only thing that's going to happen out of that is that you're going to be better because of it. You're going to be the person that people look up to. And so it comes back to you. I hope that answers your question. And it was a great question, and I really do appreciate that. But it's about self-confidence, and it's about putting something positive in the world that you have to do.
Thank you, sir. That was very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're getting short on time. Any other questions, statements, comments from the attendees this morning? Going once, going twice. Jeff, any parting comments?
Yeah,
Last
absolutely.
statements?
Absolutely. Everybody just be blessed. And I hope that, during this COVID time, you haven't been touched by any tragedies, and I hope that you've been able to help somebody else along the way if you can. But just remember, please, we're put on this earth to do something special. So please figure out what that special thing for you to do is. And I guarantee you, God didn't put you on this planet to put people down. So just go out there and do what you know is right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for this morning's Catalyst webinar. On behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude for Jeff's bravery, candidness, and openness to come on and share with us his experiences and his views. We all need to hear his story, and we all need to heed his story. Now more than ever. Want to encourage everybody to join us next week on the Catalyst webinar series. We have Kevin MacDonald, CEO of thecoachingdepartment.com. Was fortunate enough to track Kevin down through the Club Managers Association. He's done some presentations for them in terms of coaching and leading. It's going to be a very enlightening webinar. We're looking forward to having him on. So join us next week, same time. Thank you, everybody. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. Stay sane.
You too, John. Thank you.